It was an ordinary day in the vast, isolated lands of Patagonia, Argentina. The wind swept fiercely across miles of open plains under a relentless sun. But on this seemingly barren land, a group of paleontologists was about to make a discovery that would forever change how we see Earth's past. It all started with a bone. Not just any bone. This fragment, half-buried and dust-covered, was massive, far larger than any other fossil they'd ever encountered. As the team of researchers carefully unearthed each piece, the sheer dimensions of the skeleton revealed a prehistoric story lost for millions of years. They were face to face with what they would later call the Argentinosaurus, the largest herbivorous dinosaur ever found. Back in the early 90s, no one could have imagined just how monumental this creature would turn out to be. A true masterpiece of the Cretaceous era, with a body that stretched the limits of even the most experienced minds in paleontology. Piece by piece, as they continued to excavate, huge vertebrae began to appear, resembling small boulders due to their size and weight. Estimates suggest that a single vertebra from Argentinosaurus could weigh almost a ton, which immediately raised a question for the team. How could something so colossal even exist? Each new find left the scientists more and more astonished. Massive bones, ribs that looked like support beams, and limb fragments showed just how much strength and resilience this dinosaur needed to support its own weight. In the months that followed, word spread like wildfire in the scientific community, and soon, specialists from all over the world wanted to learn more about this ancient colossus. Argentinosaurus was officially recognized as a new genus and species, a legend coming to life in labs and museums. Just imagine holding a piece of history that dates back more than 90 million years. But as the excitement grew, so did another thought. This dinosaur, from an era so far removed from ours and on a scale of unimaginable greatness, was also a reminder of human insignificance in the face of time and the creatures that once roamed here. Before we continue, make sure you're subscribed to the channel to catch more videos about dinosaurs and other prehistoric wonders. Let's keep going. Imagine a creature so immense that, if it stood next to a 4-story building, it would look it right in the eye. That was the Argentinosaurus. With an estimated length of 100 to 130 feet, about the length of 4 school buses lined up, it bore the mark of a true Earth Titan. Its dimensions alone made it a living legend, standing out even among the giants of its time, including the largest sauropods. Visualizing this colossus roaming the Earth is no small feat, but think of it this way. It weighed as much as a commercial airplane, around 70 to 100 tons. That mass made each step echo like thunder, shaking the ground beneath it and making rocks tremble. From a practical standpoint, the force and stability of its body were so immense that it likely moved with a slow cadence, almost like a rhythm carefully orchestrated by nature itself. Just imagine each movement required a colossal effort from muscles and tendons, all adapted to support a dense, heavy skeleton. To this day, no scientist fully understands how it maintained its posture and balance with such a massive frame. For any predator that approached, Argentinosaurus was like a living fortress, a wall of muscle and bone that would be nearly impossible to take down. In the prehistoric world, size wasn't just a trait. It was a weapon, a strategic advantage that helped secure survival. And even though it was peaceful and herbivorous, it commanded respect simply through sheer size. Other dinosaurs, smaller and perhaps quicker, likely felt dwarfed beside it, just like any other living thing of the time. It was as if Argentinosaurus embodied the very peak of nature, a physical declaration of Earth's ability to create greatness. And that's why it hasn't been forgotten. Its dimensions, immortalized in the fossil record, continue to amaze not just paleontologists and scientists, but anyone who hears its story. After all, we're talking about a being that, even after millions of years, still reminds us of the greatness that once roamed our planet. To truly understand Argentinosaurus, we have to look at the environment it thrived in South America 90 million years ago, during the Cretaceous period. Back then, Earth's landscape was completely different from what we know today. Patagonia, where its fossils were discovered, was a region of vast plains, surrounded by rivers and dense forests. But unlike today's tropical jungles, Argentinosaurus habitat was more like a giant savanna, open, expansive terrain with conifer forests and tall, hardy plants, ideal for supporting creatures of such massive scale. This environment needed to be rich in vegetation to sustain herbivores like Argentinosaurus. Imagine fields of low-growing plants mixed with robust trees and enormous ferns. But there was a complexity to this habitat. Since each Argentinosaurus needed to consume hundreds of pounds of plants daily, it was in constant motion, traveling mile after mile in search of food and water. It was as if the landscape were a stage and Argentinosaurus, a force of nature that shaped the ecosystem around it. However, South America in those days was also home to other giants, including predators. In the marshes and forests, large carnivores prowled, like Giganotosaurus, one of the few that might have had the courage and size to threaten an Argentinosaurus, especially younger ones. This made it essential for these herbivore giants to stay on alert, moving in groups almost like prehistoric caravans. This group behavior offered a degree of protection, keeping the young close to the adults and lowering the chances of a fatal attack. The natural habitat of that era was in constant transformation. Rivers swelled with seasonal rains, forming temporary marshes and flood zones, and the vegetation responded to climate changes, offering abundance one season and scarcity the next. This dynamic nature forced Argentinosaurus and other giant herbivores to migrate, a process that helped fertilize the land and keep the ecosystem balanced. In many ways, Argentinosaurus was not just an inhabitant but also a shaper of its habitat, leaving its mark with each step, each bite, and every slow, deliberate move it made. In the heart of this prehistoric world, Argentinosaurus was more than just a giant. It was part of the living landscape, a force that transformed and sustained the environment. It was as if it embodied the very essence of nature in dinosaur form, a being so colossal that even the world around it seemed small. Imagine the scene. The Argentinosaurus moving across the plains, its heavy footsteps making the ground tremble as if from distant thunder. Each step was almost a spectacle of its own, a sound that echoed through the vegetation, scaring smaller animals and leaving a trail marked in the soil. This giant's weight was so colossal that, when walking, it probably had to maintain a slow, almost careful pace to avoid overstraining its body. Although massive and seemingly invincible, Argentinosaurus wasn't simply a walking tank. In fact, some of its bones were hollow, a characteristic that helped reduce its weight and allowed it to carry all that bulk without collapsing under its own mass. Even so, it was a master of balance, using its enormous tail to maintain stability as it moved. The tail also helped distribute its body weight, functioning as a natural counterbalance, swaying gently with each step. If we were to observe this giant up close, we'd see something almost mesmerizing. Its movements were firm and slow, yet somehow graceful, as if it was in total harmony with the world around it. With each step, its wide, thick feet crushed the vegetation, and the impact left deep impressions in the ground, marking its presence. The life of an Argentinosaurus was, in many ways, a dance with gravity. It had to be cautious with each movement to ensure that its bones, tendons, and muscles could support its monumental load. It's easy to imagine that a creature this size would avoid unstable terrain or swampy areas where it could easily sink. For Argentinosaurus, the vast plains and firm forest floors were the ideal paths, allowing its march to remain steady and unhurried. Every journey was a quest, crossing great distances in search of food, water, and possibly safety. So, have you ever heard of the largest dinosaur on record? Drop a comment below with your thoughts on Argentinosaurus. We'd love to hear from you. Let's keep going. Despite its massive size, Argentinosaurus didn't live without threats. South America at that time was home to other giants, including formidable predators like Giganotosaurus. This carnivore, which could grow up to 43 feet, was one of the few dinosaurs with enough courage and strength to pose a real danger to Argentinosaurus, especially the young and juvenile ones. But how did a peaceful herbivore survive in a world full of predators and competition for food? For Argentinosaurus, the survival strategy lay in numbers and unity. It lived in groups that offered a form of collective security. Imagine the scene of several Argentinosaurus together, like a living wall that could intimidate even the largest predators. By staying together, They formed a natural protective circle, an almost impenetrable barrier for any potential enemy. The juveniles stayed in the center, while the adults created an outer line, ready to face any threat. But beyond predators, Argentinosaurus also competed for resources. In a world where food wasn't always abundant, it needed to consume enormous amounts of plants daily to keep its energy up. This forced it to keep moving, and in a habitat filled with other herbivorous dinosaurs, the competition for food was constant. Each Argentinosaurus needed to eat hundreds of pounds of vegetation daily, and if a group stayed in one area for too long, the vegetation would quickly be depleted. Even with these challenges, they managed to thrive. Argentinosaurus evolved to survive in a hostile environment, using its size and social organization as defense. Each battle against predators and the relentless search for food molded Argentinosaurus into a true survivor. It didn't need sharp claws or menacing teeth. It had something few others possessed, an intimidating presence and a size that, on its own, was its most powerful survival weapon. It was as if the prehistoric world had shaped Argentinosaurus to be one of the greatest symbols of endurance and adaptation ever to exist. Each challenge, every predator, and each bit of vegetation torn from the earth contributed to turning it into the legend that, millions of years later, still inspires our imagination. Though it lacked sharp claws or teeth to bite and tear flesh, Argentinosaurus was a master in the art of defense, and its greatest strategy was in its sheer presence. Imagine a predator facing down a living mountain of muscle, skin, and bone. For many, just attempting to confront an Argentinosaurus was already a colossal risk. Its main predators, like Giganotosaurus, were formidable, but even they had to think twice before attacking an adult Argentinosaurus. A single wrong move could result in severe or even fatal injuries. Argentinosaurus' long, muscular tail was one of its greatest weapons. With a single movement, this tail could act as a heavy, powerful whip capable of delivering devastating blows. Some scientists believe that when threatened, Argentinosaurus could swing its tail with enough force to scare off or even seriously injure a predator. In addition, its impressive size and weight provided a natural defense. It was practically a walking fortress. Its thick, tough skin acted almost like armor, protecting it from superficial bites. And of course, for smaller predators, Argentinosaurus' height was an almost insurmountable obstacle. Its head was so far from the ground that for many, just reaching vital areas would be a challenge. Another aspect that worked in Argentinosaurus' favor was its group behavior. When positioned together, these colossi created an almost impenetrable wall of protection. Each individual became part of a giant puzzle, reinforcing the group's safety. The adults, with their tails swaying in alert, formed a wall around the young ones, ensuring that any threat would have to face a powerful line of defense before even getting close to a juvenile. This combination of strategies, size, stance, and organization made Argentinosaurus a formidable opponent, even for the largest predators. It was living proof that, in nature, aggression isn't always necessary to survive. Sometimes, being grand and standing firm was enough to ensure it reigned supreme across the vast plains of South America. For a creature as massive as Argentinosaurus, reproduction was a real challenge. Its eggs were large, but surprisingly, not as gigantic as you might expect for an animal of this size. Each egg was about 15 to 20 centimeters in diameter, roughly the size of a basketball. This might seem small compared to Argentinosaurus' colossal body, but it was an evolutionary adaptation, as much larger eggs would have difficulty incubating safely and evenly, especially without the risk of being accidentally crushed. Compared to eggs from other species, these were still giants, and the size of a basketball serves as a solid reference point. Even though they were relatively small, these eggs held the potential for one of the largest dinosaurs ever to walk the earth. These eggs were laid in large numbers, likely in places where the ground was warm and protected. And unlike many other animals, Argentinosaurus probably couldn't stick around to directly guard its eggs due to the risk of crushing them by accident. So, nature had another solution. Instead of tending to each egg individually, Argentinosaurus used a numbers strategy. By laying dozens of eggs, it increased the odds that some would survive the environmental dangers, from predators to harsh weather. Once they hatched, the young faced enormous challenges. Small and vulnerable, they were easy targets for predators and had to grow quickly to ensure their survival. Imagine a young Argentinosaurus, clumsy and fragile, trying to find safety in a world full of threats. Their growth rate was so fast that, within a few short years, they could reach immense sizes, quickly moving past that delicate early stage. Argentinosaurus reproduction remains a mystery to science, but these details reveal how complex and ingenious the evolutionary strategy was to ensure the lineage of this titan. Before we continue, I noticed you haven't liked the video yet. This helps YouTube keep recommending our content to you, so give it a quick like before we move on. Okay, let's keep going. The skeleton of Argentinosaurus is a true masterpiece of natural engineering, a puzzle of titanic proportions that still intrigues scientists today. Each bone had to be not only enormous in size, but also strong enough to support a weight that could exceed 70 tons. But how could a creature this immense not collapse under its own mass? To start, one of the most fascinating features of Argentinosaurus skeleton was the relative lightness of its bones. Many of them were hollow, with air-filled spaces, similar to what we see in today's birds. This adaptation, known as pneumaticity, made the skeleton lighter without losing strength. It's as if nature created a support structure that was both enormous and functional, reducing the dinosaur's total weight and making movement easier. This pneumatic structure allowed Argentinosaurus to maintain its balance and move with ease, even while carrying such a massive body. Another interesting aspect is in the vertebrae. These bones had bony projections known as transverse processes that helped anchor muscles and ligaments, strengthening the neck and tail. These elements helped distribute weight throughout the body, creating a support network where every part of the skeleton played a crucial role. The tail was also a standout feature in Argentinosaurus skeleton. As long as its neck, the tail acted as a counterweight, helping the body's balance and almost working like a third leg in terms of stability. Some scientists even suggest that the tail, in addition to aiding movement, could be used as a type of defensive whip, moving quickly and threateningly to ward off potential predators. Argentinosaurus skeleton is an impressive testament to how evolution shaped a being that could support its own grandeur. To this day, Argentinosaurus fossils are studied meticulously, and new discoveries continue to reveal secrets about the anatomy and life of this colossus. Argentinosaurus may have disappeared millions of years ago, but its presence still echoes throughout Earth's history, influencing every step we take in discovering the past. It wasn't just the largest dinosaur ever. It was a testament to a time when the planet was ruled by giants, each one leaving a deep mark on the land they once called home. With its overwhelming presence, Argentinosaurus became more than a fossil in a museum. It's a symbol of nature's raw power, from an era when life manifested in its most grandiose and colossal forms. Even today, scientists continue to seek answers in the fragments of its bones, as if each vertebra, each piece of rib, held a piece of its story. It's almost poetic to think that, with every new discovery, Argentinosaurus continues to tell its tale, slowly revealing the secrets of its world. For paleontologists, it represents the peak of an era of giants, an age that challenges our understanding and reminds us of our own smallness within Earth's history. So, at the end of our journey through the life of this giant, one question remains. If a creature like Argentinosaurus existed, what other wonders lie hidden in the layers of time, waiting to be uncovered? Because, in the end, Argentinosaurus' story isn't just a chronicle of an ancient being. It's a reminder that there's so much more beneath our feet, waiting to be unearthed, told, and admired. Argentinosaurus lived and disappeared, but its legacy is eternal, carved into rock and human imagination, reminding us that, long before us, this planet was once home to a true era of giants. Thanks for joining us on Argentinosaurus Journey. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep receiving our next videos. See you in the next one.